So this is a hard question to answer because I have so many different ways to answer this question. So one, I do want to say that I have an anterior approach, a little bit different than if you have a posterior hip replacement, but still my answer remains the same. When I found out I needed both hips replaced, and I was at the time a very well-known, popular, sought-out yoga teacher. I was at the top of my game, if you will. It was just devastating to me. It murdered me as a person, as an individual, who I thought I was, where I thought my future was going, and everything just basically had to start over for me. And so that meant I had to stop teaching yoga as well. And from there, I started to think about everything else on my body besides my hips. So this was before I had my hips replaced. I decided to work on my entire body and stop trying to fix my hips, because once I knew that I had to have surgery, there was no fixing my hips, okay? So instead, I just started working on the rest of my body. And I also made the decision that I wouldn't baby my hips. I would use them, because I read everything too. It said that I had doctors tell me that I should consider a career change, that I wouldn't be able to teach yoga, I would be able to teach yoga, but not the way I was teaching at that time in my life, and things would have to change. And I just refused to accept that. And yes, it did change, but instead of change, I made a pivot. And the pivot was to work on foot stability, big toe mobility, work on the structure from the feet up, the posture of my body, work on thoracic spine mobility, the middle spine mobility, rib cage mobility, work on strength training using my own body weight versus lifting heavy weights at the gym. So I made all these changes before I replaced my hips, and I also improved my lymphatic system. And I as well kept using my hips when they were in pain. So I kept teaching classes like bar flow, which made me lift my leg up in the air. And the only way I could lift my leg in the air was to do it. Every week I did a bar flow class. So I was constantly moving my hips even when my hips didn't want to move. And then I had my hips replaced, and I did my doctor let me rehab myself. He didn't put me into any physical therapy. He let me rehab myself, and that's what I did. And I have been rehabbing ever since, and I still will for the rest of my life, because I am an injured mover. I have 2 hips, but I don't baby my hips. I don't baby people. But what I do is prepare my hips for deep and, in a way, impossible movement for people with hip replacements or hips like mine. So with that said, mine with the anterior approach, it said that I should never back bend, right? Well, I back bend all the time. I just no longer back bend in my hips. I do hip extension, but the back bend comes from my thoracic spine, right? So I just learned how to truly back bend and not just let it show up in my hips. And then camel pose. I do camel pose all the time. So, but then in people with a posterior approach, that you're supposed to be careful of forward bends. But I just think if you avoid a position, you're just going to increase tension and tightness and restriction. And really what I need to do, especially as someone who is almost 52 years old, has 2 new hips, I have to stay fluid, and I have to be able to move in all parts of my body. And so if I tell myself, oh, you can't back bend anymore, then I am going to actually age, and I'm going to feel not as good about my body, and my body is going to stop being able to do a certain motion, because the doctors or the suggestion for the masses is to avoid forward bends, avoid back bending, be scared of be scared of messing up your hips, right? After hip replacement. But that fear can make you tighter, and that tension can make you not live, as well as you can. So with that said, I use my hips, but I don't use them without my brain. I don't use them without the whole structuring of the body. So the reason why you can see me be able to do some of the things I can do with my hips is because I trained my body from the ground up, and I didn't just focus on my hips, I focused on my feet, my lymphatic system, my thoracic spine mobility, my posture, my cardio. I focused on all of that body weight strength training. I did all of that, and that is the reason why I can do what I can do with my new hips. And the reason why many of my students can do the impossible, the people that have bounced back from shoulder injuries, neck injuries, knee injuries, and are doing the impossible. I have people who have knee replacements playing pickleball. So, it's what I do. If you're an injured mover, I believe that you have to have your hands on every movement possible, but you have to learn a new way to that movement. So there's my long answer, and let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to answer them.